Okay, for number 7, we have a sample of 200 college football players and 150 college basketball players. And it showed that 65% of college football players receive academic tutors, while 58% of college basketball players receive academic tutors. So we want a confidence interval for the proportion of football players that receive tutors and the proportion of basketball players that receive tutors for the population of this state. So see, that difference in the proportion means we're comparing the two. Football players versus basketball players. Do football players receive more academic tutors than basketball players? It looks like they do, but we'd have to prove that. We're going to do a confidence interval of that to try to prove that. We're doing a 90% confidence interval. So let's take a look here. So we have football and basketball, and we have they either have a tutor or they don't have a tutor. So immediately when you see two different samples like this, and it's proportion, it's a two-sample z-interval for proportion. And we should tell you that part on the test, like what type of proportion it is, like two-sample z-interval for proportion. And you immediately know, since you got two different samples, that you're going to do a little table like this. And the total should be 200 for the football players, right? 65% of them receive academic tutors. So what is 65% of 200? So do 0.65 times 200. You get 130. So 130 receive tutors, which means how many do not have a tutor? So no tutor is 200 minus 130, which is 70. And then for the basketball players, 58% of 150. So 58% of 150. So 0.58 times 150 would be 87 people. 87 out of 150. So it'd be 87 have a tutor, and no tutor would be 150 minus 87. And you can use a calculator if you need to on that. It'd be 150 minus 87. You get 63. So 63 basketball players would have no tutor. So your two groups are football players and basketball players. And your categories would be tutor and no tutor. So let's use that to figure this out here. I'm going to go to Staplet, and I'm going to do a two-sample z-interval for proportions. It's right here in traditional inference down here. Two-sample z-interval for proportions. Now my group names are football and basketball. Football and basketball. And they either have a tutor or no tutor. You see, this is why I made that little table over there, because I'm going to put it in the Staplet. 130 and 70. And 87 and 63. And so I begin analysis. And it looks like the football should have a higher percentage of players with tutors. So I'm doing an interval of P1 minus P2, which would be football minus basketball, and I want 90%. And you should be able to leave this the same every time, so don't worry about that. And I'm going to perform, and there's my lower bound and upper bound. 0.0164 to 0.1564. Negative 0.0164. So my confidence interval, let's go back and get that again. My 90% confidence interval is equal to negative 64 to 0.1564. And that would be my final answer, which means I am 90% confident the true difference. So I'm 90% confident the true difference of football minus basketball is between negative 0.0164 and 0.1564. So that's the true difference. It's negative 1.64 less the football players, or it's 15% grade. Somewhere between there. You see, there's a pretty good chance that the football players have a higher percentage because most of that interval is positive, which means the football player is higher. So if they asked you to interpret it, that's how you'd interpret it. I'm 90% confident the true distance of football minus basketball is between 0.0164 and 0.1564. And that would be my final answer on this one.